So on a little walk here. Today we are talking about how I broke my foot. I.e., don't look at your phone when you're driving. So if you've watched many or really any of my videos, you know that for a while my right foot, my dominant foot, has been broken. Before that, I was a ski and snowboard instructor, and I hopefully will be again. But then I got in a car accident and totaled my home and my foot because I looked down at my phone. So we are going to talk about that whole story, tell you a little bit about what the aftermath of that was and how lucky I am to have lived. Let's get into it.
911, where's your emergency?
Just south of MD Nursery on Highway 33.
What's going on there?
There's a two-car accident. There's somebody inside the vehicle. Airbag has been deployed. Whoever's in the driver side driver cannot get out of the vehicle. The vehicle is blocking the southbound lane of the road. My husband just went to go see if the driver is okay.
Okay.
We have stopped. We have our flashers on. We are in front of that vehicle.
Okay.
There's another vehicle involved. It looks like a big work truck.
The story starts out on Highway 33 between Driggs and Victor, Idaho. It was late February. No, it was late January, because I was on my way back to go over the pass back to Jackson so that the next day I could take a children's specialist exam at Jackson Hole. And this particular stretch of highway is very dark at night and has a lot of little turns that come off the road that don't have a turnout lane, right? So it's one of those places that you really need to pay attention, right? So I was driving along this road and it was right after my weekend. I'm kind of tired, lazy, and I looked down at my phone for some reason. I could not tell you to this day exactly why I looked down at my phone. It did not register as particularly important. And the person driving in front of me that I honestly had not even registered the existence of put on the brakes and stopped to take one of those no turn lane turns. And I hit him probably going 65 miles an hour. I did try to put on the brakes. I used my right foot to press down on the brakes and essentially brace myself to keep me from slamming into the car in front of me. Of course, I still hit it. It was a big work truck, so all the damage was to my car, completely crumpled the front of the car. And Bean Dip was actually asleep on my shoulder at the time. So I didn't pass out. The airbag did come out, but there were a couple minutes or a couple seconds of I don't know what happened. And when I realized what had happened, the windshield was completely smashed. My feet are kind of all the way up here. And Bean Dip had ended up behind my back. So I leaned forward, I reached back to try to get her, and she flip-flopped out and under the seat, under the driver's seat. And immediately my thought was, how do I get my bird? Not 911. I was not the one who called 911. Some other very nice person did. I believe the gentleman that I hit broke me out of my car because my door was a little smushied. He got me out of my car, and my first order of business was getting bean dip out from under the seat. And let me tell you, she was not real interested in coming out. She was pretty scared. And I thought for sure she had to be hurt. As soon as I stood up, I realized I would not be a ski instructor for the rest of that season. I grabbed bean dip out from under the chair. She ended up being completely unharmed. You've seen her since then. This was several months ago, so you know she was fine. But I held her like she was all broken. And I called my partner to come get me. The cops showed up, of course, as did the ambulance. I told the cops the story I just told you, and they wrote up a little ticket for me, a misdemeanor, because driving distracted, or inattentive driving as it's called, which is when you look at your phone and drive, which is what I did, which is when you look at your phone and drive, is a misdemeanor with a maximum of 6 months jail time. So, woo. Of course, I'll get into that in a minute. And then I went to the emergency room where they determined that I had broken the talus on both sides. So, hairline fractures on both sides of the talus, which is the main weight-bearing bone in your foot. Not a ski instructor for the rest of the season. When my partner showed up to the scene to get bean dip out of the way for me, and the paramedics told him that I had probably broken my foot, his response was, "Oh, that's great," because he saw the car. And I will show you a picture of that later, and he saw how injured I could or should be. I didn't have medical insurance, which is its own problem. And it was such a hard, there was so much red tape to get through to get medical insurance. So I went to the ER, I paid that bill out of pocket. And then I started trying to get medical insurance, but I'm not a legal resident of Wyoming or Idaho. I'm a legal resident of Arizona. And I didn't want to go back because Arizona is not an emotionally fun place for me. So I ended up deciding to just not get any medical care other than the medical care I had already gotten at the ER, which was a plaster cast, and they wrapped it up and said I probably wouldn't need surgery, but I should go see a foot doctor about it. And I did not do that. Instead, I bought myself a boot and I stayed on crutches for 8 weeks, and that's how I healed it up. Obviously, I lost my job as a ski instructor, because you can't teach skiing if you can't ski or walk. I lost my evening job at a grocery store as well because they didn't want the liability of me not being able to walk and possibly injuring myself further. I had, of course, been living in the car that I totaled in this accident. So I had to buy a new car pretty immediately. Fortunately, my mom was willing and able to help me a little bit with that. But I also had to pay for some nights in a hotel. I stayed with a friend, slash one of my bosses for a night. Thank you. And there is a video linked in the description of when I built out to live in the new car that I got. So I ended up in court for the misdemeanor. Originally, I pled not guilty, but then I changed my plea because, you know what, I did do the thing. I did look at my phone when I was driving. So remember how I said this has a maximum of 6 months in jail? Well, obviously, I am not in jail. I got 6 months suspended jail time, which means if I violate the 6 months of probation that I got, which basically means if I get another misdemeanor, I could go to jail. And I got 10 hours of community service, specifically creating some kind of public PSA about the myriad reasons you should not look at your phone and drive, up to and including making a YouTube video. So all that's all interesting. That's my story. But let's talk a little bit about the actual facts and the actual things that could have happened and do happen to people who text and drive and get in accidents, and some of the statistics around that. Now, of course, your first likelihood, your first scary possibility is ending up no longer alive. And I was incredibly lucky that that didn't happen to me, but it does happen. In fact, in 2023 alone, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration attributed 3,275 fatalities to distracted driving. There's also 2 possible types of misdemeanors you could get. You could get in Idaho at least, inattentive driving, which is what I got, which is the 6-month possible jail time. You could also end up with a year possible jail time, which pretty big issue. You also, if you don't have the right kind of insurance, might end up paying for both your car, like I had to pay for my car, and the other person's car if there's another person involved. You could also hurt someone else, and that would be incredibly difficult emotionally. And also, you hurt someone else, that's not great. And you could end up telling all your YouTube followers what you did. That one's not that bad. So basically, don't look at your phone and drive. That means don't play YouTube videos, don't text, try to start the music and change the podcast before you get going. And stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.